So thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Like I say, my name's Lizzie and I'm from the marketing team here at Premier Marinas. This is Premier's first virtual event of the year, and we're delighted to have the In Our Element rowing team here tonight. They're all Premier staff members, and they're going to be undertaking the toughest rowing challenge in the world later on this year. Along with them, we've got Professor John McGeehan, Director of the University of Portsmouth Centre for Enzyme Innovation, who with his team are helping solve the global plastic crisis. So welcome to you all as well. Before I begin, I've already mentioned, can you please have your microphones off throughout, and if you have any questions, please do pop them in the messenger. I just want to say that this talk is going to be recorded, so then we can share on our social media channels going forward. Admin over, we're going to start the evening with the In Our Element team. Hi Holly, Rachel, Mike and Elliot. I just wanted to start off by asking, can you tell us a little bit about the challenge?
Yeah, thanks Lizzie, and hi everyone, thanks so much for joining us tonight. So basically we're taking part in the 2022 Talisker Whisky Atlantic Challenge, which is a 3,000-mile unsupported row from La Gomera in the Canary Islands to English Harbour in Antigua, and the row will take approximately up to sort of 50 days. We're rowing 2 hours on, 2 hours off, 24 hours a day. The challenge for us is to push our bodies to physical and mental limits. We very much are looking forward to working together as a team, and this is very much a team thing for us. And obviously we're raising awareness and helping John in his research, which you'll hear about later. Lizzie, did you want us to just talk a little bit about us individually and our sort of personal motivation, I guess, towards this?
Yeah, that'd be brilliant. Thanks, Holly.
So obviously, aside by the inspiring work that we're doing this for, my name's Holly Luff, and 4 years ago, I was inspired to take on this challenge. I just needed to find the perfect team to do it with, which I did, and here we are. This is a very mental challenge. We're going to be hurting, suffering, and hating a lot of the time, I think. We need to be strong, psychologically focused. It's a big ocean to row. For me, it's very much about the team, the camaraderie, the loyalty, and forming an unbreakable bond that will see us through the good times, but more importantly, the very dark times. So for me personally, and I try not to let it impact anything I want to achieve, but I have scoliosis, which is a sideways curvature of my spine, which has required several operations, significant operations over the years, including the fitting of permanent rods throughout my spine, which run the length. And with this in mind, what a better opportunity to demonstrate how kind of grit, determination and a dream can maybe inspire others to take on what would be a seemingly impossible task for someone with my condition. So that's very much my personal note on this. Obviously, doing this for a cause that's going to make a difference to everybody, a cause that touches everyone, future generations, and our whole world, is obviously the kind of common goal that we've got with this. But yeah, that's me. I'll pass over to Rach.
Hello. Yeah, my name's Rachel Lasham. It was funny when Holly asked me to do this. I didn't even think about the answer. It was just yes. So it's sometimes hard for me to explain why I'm doing it. It's just part of me and my character that I just love to grab life by the horns and go off and have adventures and challenge myself. And to do this as a team is something new for me. I've done trips alone and as a couple as well. So to do it as a team is going to be really interesting for that dynamic. And I just love the unknown of it, that you hear about what different teams are doing and how hard it is for them, but you don't know what battles you're going to go through when you're actually partaking in the row. So yeah, it's a different challenge. I've done challenges before. I rode across Canada in the winter on a motorcycle, but it was -26, but at the end of it, there was a hotel room if you wanted one. So with this, there's no escape. You are there on that boat and you're committed. You can't turn around. So it'll be so interesting to see how we all, manage and cope with that. And over to Mike.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Mike Hatch. Just listening to Rachel then, it's quite funny. She was asked if she wanted to do it. So when people say to me, Mike, why are you doing the challenge? Because Holly told me I had to. That's the honest answer. But aside to that, I like to test myself personally, like mentally and physically. I've done a few ultra marathons and things like that. I mean, this is on a whole new level. And just being able to say that I've rowed across the Atlantic with 3 other amazing people, and we've done it for such a great cause. I mean, it's a once in a lifetime. Why not do it? Apart from because Holly told me I had to. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those challenges that I've signed up for. I'm committed, committed to the training, committed to not really eating much when I'm on the boat, or maybe eating too much, as it seems to be. Yeah, it's one of those things that we're going to do, and we're going to do it as a team. Over to Elliot.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, I mean, I've spent my whole life on the water. I'm based in Falmouth in Cornwall, and all I've ever done is sailboats, mess around on the water, wakeboarding, water skiing, everything. And I've always wanted to cross the Atlantic, and I always thought I would do it on a lovely super yacht. And then Holly asked me a couple of years ago whether I'd fancy doing it in a rowing boat, and sort of like Rachel, I didn't even question it. I just said yes. Yeah, I love a challenge. I've been part of the local lifeboat crew in Falmouth for the last 12 years. Well, I'm in my 12th year, and I like to think that I'm fairly competent in, fairly comfortable in sort of more extreme conditions on the water, and being a yacht racer for a long time. But there is a massive unknown because it's a rowing boat. So I love being part of a team and doing things, competing as part of a team. But this challenge is pushing yourself to the absolute maximum. And I don't know where my point of my level is. So it's finding my maximum sort of mental ability, I suppose. Yeah, looking forward to the challenge. Can't wait.
Thank you guys for those introductions. It's really good to sort of hear what your own personal goals and sort of reasons for doing this. Can I just sort of ask what the meaning is behind the name, and just a bit more about your training, etc.?
So yeah, we all love being in and on the water in some form or another. We felt that we needed a team name that really encapsulated that. So that's where we came up with In Our Element, because we literally will be in our element. It will be pushed to the extreme. But we found that we thought that was really fitting for us. We're just so happy and comfortable when we're on the water. So yeah, it'll be interesting actually thinking about it, how it's going to turn out. But yeah, that's how we came up with that team name. And training wise, it's been at the moment a lot in the gym. We were supposed to launch our boat last year. Unfortunately, the weather wasn't too kind, and we really didn't want to write the boat off on the first day. So we decided to hold off. So at the moment, it's been a lot of training in the gym, really ramping up sessions, certainly starting with mobility and then building strength, working on strengthening muscles and areas that are going to fail. Certainly lower back, hip flexors, all those kind of things. And then working on our rowing technique to make sure we're as efficient as possible, to reduce injury prevention. We have been sort of building up with our workouts. We've got a personal trainer, Gus, and as the weeks have progressed, he's been putting more rowing in, longer rows, harder rows. So we're really sort of progressing well with that. And then we will be getting the boat launched on the 9th of April. And that will be the first time on the water. Well, actually, we went out in a gig the other week, other month, which is great fun. But yeah, that will be the first time in the boat, and then it's as much time on the oars as possible. We've got a lot of hours to row. So.
Yeah, I wonder.
And how do you mentally prepare yourself for 45 days on the boat when you're out there?
I mean, it's a great question. I think I don't know that you can do as much preparation as you possibly can, but actually nothing's probably going to prepare us for what we're going to face out there. But I think the more time we spend as a team, we've discussed from the beginning that we are very open and honest about how we're feeling at every point during the journey, and this will be especially important when we're actually on the boat. So just communicating as effectively as we can, so that we can support each other through those really tough times. Mental resilience is something that I think we all kind of have in our own way, and we've all had sort of stories throughout our lives that have had to pull on that. But this is the time to sort of bring that together, really. And I think we're absolutely fully aware of how difficult this challenge is. Whether we're aware of exactly how that's going to present itself is another thing. But I think we're very open to the fact that we are going to absolutely need each other's support, and show each other our weaknesses when they're there, and be honest about them, because that's the way that we'll be able to hopefully get over those, and then build and move forward, taking each day or possibly hour at a time.
Yeah, I'd probably add to that and say that we're already talking about our fears that we might have when we're at sea for that period of time. I mean, we are going to be at sea for a long time. For me, it was about what is below me, and we have to get out of the boat and clean the bottom and clean it to reduce drag. So what is at the bottom of that ocean was my biggest fear. And what's helped is I talk to people about it, and actually just talking about it, talking to the team, talking to my colleagues at work. It's helped. It's really helped. So yeah, just sharing those fears with other people was like really brought us along as well. It's made us bond as a team.
And are you able to sort of tell us a little bit about what a single day may consist of, and what sort of challenges you may face when on the boat?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Oh, sorry. Can you tell us what a single day may consist of, and sort of the challenges you may face when out on the boat?
Lots of rowing, eating, not much sleeping. Self-care. It's funny when you tell people you're doing 2 hours on, 2 hours off, they're like, oh, so you get 2 hours of sleep, and you're like, no. You've got self-care. You've got to make sure you're making water. You've got to do your food prep, look after the boat. You might get 20 minutes of sleep if you're lucky. But apparently we've heard from other teams that you really settle into the routine and the rhythm of the 2 hours, and you're so in the moment and focused on that 2 hours, suddenly it's gone and you're on to the next. So yeah, that's going to be quite interesting. It's going to be so nice to live in the moment, actually, isn't it?
I'm just feeling you thinking I could do that. I could just,
that's what
I could just sense
Anne wrote
it.
to me the other day and said, Nessa said you're not fancy it.
Hi there, sorry about that. Sorry for the interruption. So I've muted everyone, and if you'd like to speak, Holly, Elliot, Mike and John, then you'll just unmute yourselves again. But so you were talking about the eating, drinking aspect. Can you sort of give us an idea of the nutrition and hydration? Sort of how many calories are you going to be having per day?
So you're looking at about 4,000 to 5,000 calories a day that you're aiming to eat. It all depends what weight you are when you actually set off, because that depends how much you consume. Apparently people really struggle. That's why people lose so much weight. They just can't eat that much. But it's based around dry meals and also snack packs. So apparently you need to take as many different types of food as you can think of, just because there'll be something that you think you love, but after 5 days in a row you're sick of it and wanting something else. So lots of different tastes and textures, things that are easy to eat. The dried meals you can make with hot water, but I think a lot of teams don't bother. They end up just having it cold, just so it's quicker to make. Yeah, definitely time saving. So that's what we'll be having. But I think you really need things that you look forward to. So when you're really struggling, like, oh, good, I've got that packet of sweet salt, or I've got that tub of peanut butter to work my way through. That's what I'll be like anyway.
I've just seen a question come up from Harry Morris, just saying, have any of the teams spoken to teams that have competed this year and their experiences? And Harry, we're very fortunate, actually. We have quite a few teams that we're friends with that have done past rows and that were competing this year. We haven't spoken to any specifically, but we've seen a lot of the social stuff that's been going on since they finished. It's interesting to listen to other teams. Everybody has a very, very different experience and a very different race. And we've been kind of advised to take as much and soak as much of that information up as possible. and recognise that actually you'll be sort of mashing that together, because your race will be very different, and the weather plays such an important part in that. So yeah, we have spoken to teams, and we've got like I say, contacts that we're kind of drawing on their experience and trying to learn from them. But yeah, it's quite a close network, the rowers community. So once you end up doing the mandatory courses we've had to do, we did that with a load of teams that are doing our race, and other sort of events that we go to. We get the opportunity to mix with them, and actually I can't tell you how supportive and lovely the other teams are, in just understanding how huge this challenge is, and that actually we all go off at the same time, and we all want to see each other the other side. So it becomes quite a community and quite a family.
Thank you for answering that, Holly. I guess another question was sort of, what's the most important piece of kit you're going to need on board? That must be a hard one to decide.
Guys.
I suppose the most important pieces of kit for us to kind of keep us going are, well, one's the water maker. That's an incredibly important piece of kit, because we can't carry enough water on board to sustain us for the trip. So that is really important. And then the other important thing is going to be sort of solar panels and our batteries, maintaining them so that we can then power water maker, all of our navigation equipment, and then I suppose the next, oars, that's our engine at the end of the day. So we sort of maintain and look after our oars, and then our food. So, but I mean, there's so much kit that is we need. And sorry, the dog's barking. Yeah, there's a lot of kit that we need and that's carried on the boat. But yeah, they're probably the most important ones, I'd say. I don't know if you guys have got any extras to add.
I think just safety gear, stuff that keeps us attached to the boat, is probably
And alive.
literally our lifeline. Yeah, I've got a short video, Lizzie. I didn't know if you want me to share with everyone, just to kind of give them a bit of a visual on what this looks like, before we move on to some other questions.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant.
Okay, bear with me, everyone. I hope it's going to work. Yeah, that's just a little snip, just to allow everyone to kind of get into what we're doing.
It gives us goosebumps every time. I'm like, I'm so excited. Can't wait to do it.
There's a couple more questions, and I don't know if you want me to look at those, Lizzie.
Well, we've got loads of great questions here, so I didn't know whether we wanted to start off with one person has said, sort of, what contact are you going to have with home, friends and family on the trip? And I think lots of people will be asking the same question.
Yeah, so there is different communication packages that you can purchase, which all depends on how much money you've managed to raise in order to obviously complete this. So it's a bit of a luxury item when you talk about kind of safety kit and things like that, the must-haves. So it's kind of something that we'll look at kind of towards the end of the year and see what we can do. But essentially we have 2 satellite phones that we have to carry because there's communication that we have to have with the support team. They're not nearby, they're not on boats around the corner, but they are on the end of a phone, so they do check-in calls. As far as family and friends, we can use the sat phone to call home, but it's not a cheap thing to do, so we need to consider it properly. And like I say, the comms packages that you can purchase that do allow you to kind of do social media and stuff like that are very expensive. And I think it's interesting when you talk to some teams, some weeks will go past where you just have no opportunity whatsoever to contact anybody, whether that's because you're because of the weather, because of what's going on, or whether that's because of your own mental state or whatever. So a lot of that you have to play by ear. A lot of teams, generally you don't hear from them much the first week because that's kind of the hell week. And then once you're past that, there tends to be a little bit more communication that comes back. But yeah, it's something that we need to explore and kind of decide as a team how we want to play that and what funds we've got to support that at the end.
So if you want to see videos and photos come back, please donate.
We've got one person that said, you know, are you likely to encounter any wildlife? And is that something that you've looked into, researched?
Apart from Mike.
I think we're hoping to see lots of wildlife, and by the looks of kind of social media from other teams this year, there's a lot out there, from whales, dolphins, lots and lots of fish, sharks. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing all the wildlife and just experience it all in such a remote location, and just in their environment. It's going to be amazing for me.
We actually end up being like a little ecosystem that moves very, very slowly. So we obviously cast a shadow at the bottom of the boat. We get growth on the bottom of the boat, which attracts little fish. Little fish get eaten by bigger fish. Bigger fish get eaten by bigger fish. So yeah, I mean, we are a traveling ecosystem. Hence why we have to get outside the boat to clean it. That's not just to reduce drag. Even though we want to see wildlife, we don't always want wildlife around us. There's some stuff that I don't want to encounter out there, but I'm sure we will. And it's just about keeping the boat clean and tidy.
We do have stories from other teams that kind of a specific bird that might land on the boat and actually travel with them for a few days, and then they're quite sad to see that go. There's lots of stories about flying fish, which when you hear about at night time when you can't see what's coming and then you get slapped around the face with a flying fish. That's something that well, I guess we probably will have to story tell, but we'll see.
That'll wake you up if you're a bit tired on the oars.
I have just had someone ask, will you be fishing at any point?
We have had this conversation, and I think initially we thought it was a great idea, but we were told very, very quickly that if you have blood spilling out over the boat, it's not a great thing to attract things that you might not want near you. So I think we made a definite decision that was not going to happen.
Yeah. And you could end up with a bit of a stomach bug when all you've got is a bucket to go into.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't really want too much time on there. So we've been told not to for that reason as well.
And I'm just going through the questions at the moment. I guess also there's quite a bit of interest of, you know, once you get over the finishing line, will you then have a holiday on arrival, and then how are you getting back from Antigua?
So we will be in Antigua in the first few days of that. We'll be prepping to get the boat shipped back. So there's quite a lot of inspection stuff you have to do once you land. But then, yeah, we will absolutely be having a holiday in Antigua. But we are all very, very conscious that we have to get back to our jobs as well.
I'm already fantasizing about the all-you-can-eat buffet. I haven't even got there yet.
And I'm sure it has been talked about between the four of you, sort of like, how long are you thinking this is going to take? Do you all have sort of your own goal of how many days? Do you dare to, you know, reveal that to each of yourselves?
That is how long's a piece of string? There's so many variables in there to answer that question. I mean, if we've got flat, calm, glassy conditions, sunny, glorious weather, it could take us 50 days plus. But if we've got strong tailwinds and big following seas, could do it in 40 days. So it is a massive, it's a massive unknown. I think we definitely like to try and do it in a 45-day sort of time, in and around that. But yeah, unfortunately, we don't know the answer to that one.
Because someone has asked, and I'm intrigued as well, is 41 days the record?
No, it's less than that. I think it was set a few years ago, the original record. It's mid-30s, I believe, isn't it, Holly?
30s, definitely.
36, 37, I think.
Yeah.
36 days. It's yeah, really quick time.
And I guess obviously we're very conscious of the weather at the moment, and can you sort of tell us a bit about sort of how the weather conditions will affect your overall performance?
How's the weather going to affect our performance?
Sort of, you know, the extremes in terms of sort of the heat, all that kind of thing. I know we're thinking storms at the moment just because of our current situation, but I think the other, you know.
Yeah, the heat's is going to be a real problem. It's, you know, you're very exposed, you're in an open boat effectively, so it's protecting yourself from the sun as much as you can with hats and covering yourself up. It's yeah, we're not going to be sunbathing out there, that's for sure. And then the other extreme is you know, bad weather. It's to the point where you might be rowing as hard as you can, but not going anywhere, and having to make the decision to put out the sea anchor and lock yourselves away in your cabin and minimize that drift until the weather improves. And then there's the other extreme of, you know, being hit by rogue waves and being rolled out, you know, the boat rolled over, which is why, you know, the safety kit's important. We're always tethered at all times.
Yeah, a lot of people would think that we want those glass-like conditions on the sea with no wind, glorious sunshine. They're great to have for a day or so, but they're the days that we do have to really row, and we won't be moving particularly quick. But like Elliot said, if we have a following sea with a bit of wind, when the boats start to surf, some of them have actually been known to surf up to about 15 knots. And if we're rowing, we're only probably rowing at about somewhere between 1.5 and 3 on a good day. So we do want a little bit of weather, not too much. We obviously want to get across safely, but we don't always want those flat, calm, glorious days.
That makes complete sense. And I guess, you know, one other question, and am I right, you know, they've asked, do you have a support powered boat in close proximity, or are you very much alone?
Yeah, there's 2 support yachts that kind of float around the whole fleet. They could be anywhere up to a week away from you. So no, not really. I mean, they give most of their advice over the phone. If we were to get into real trouble, you're likely to get rescued by the nearest tanker or ship or whatever it might be, which is something that you don't really want to explore, because getting rescued from a very large ship like that alongside our boat is not something that we want to be doing. So yeah, there is support out there, but it's certainly not readily available should you need it.
And sorry, someone has said, have any of your partners, husbands, wives, lovers said, no, please don't do this?
My boyfriend hasn't, because he's sailing across in July. Yeah, he said he's always wanted to do it, and he's like, oh, for God's sake, now you're rowing, I have to sail, I've got no excuses now. So yeah, he'll actually be doing that. My mum she's like, why? She's like, you're a nutter, but she knew that anyway. I think I've got the most incredibly supportive family, and despite, I know my mum is, and she's in the audience here, just beside herself and probably won't sleep for the entire time we're away. The support and understanding for why we might want to do this is overwhelming, and yeah, I think I completely understand why people are terrified for us. But again, thanks to everyone for being so supportive, because nobody has been negative at all, which is amazing. And Elliot's wife specifically,
who I've spoken to a lot about this, is one of the most supportive partners I think I've ever met. So yeah, we're very lucky in that respect.
Well, I'm very lucky to have a incredibly supportive wife. I mean, I think she knows I'd do it anyway. But it's nice to know she fully supports me, and the rest of my family, like Holly, are incredibly supportive. So
I personally felt like I was getting told off by my mum. I was like, Mum, I'm 38 years old. This is what I'm doing. She's probably the only person that calls me Michael. She shouted at me, but I'm doing it anyway. She supports it. Both my mum and dad support it. So yeah, it's been good. It's been good to have the support of the family, but also the other team members, families, and partners and friends as well. It's putting us all closer together. So yeah.
Oh, I'm glad that question went the right way. People are really, really interested in the training aspect, and we've got sort of 5-10 minutes before we need to pass on to John. But I'm just looking through. So will training in the boat in the UK involve you all spending several days, weeks out at sea?
It will be, we'll be building up to training rows. So the first time that you'll go out for like 6 hours, then 12, and then build up to 24-hour rows. There will be, I think in July, we'll be doing a good stint of sort of 7 days. So that, I think it's 120 hours rowing we need to do. We actually want to aim above and beyond that, get as many hours in as we can. But yeah, we're training a lot in the Solent, I think, won't we?
Yeah, it's interesting. We've got we've got an ocean rowing coach on board. He's called Duncan Roy, and he's crossed the Atlantic many times and is very experienced. And actually, interestingly, he, as much as we have to do a lot of miles, and we do have to get those rowing miles under our belt, and that's mandatory for the race. They kind of they don't push you too far and too hard in this country. I think when you're going to go and do this, you don't want to do it twice. You want to do it once, so we do as much prep as we possibly can, but we don't push our limits to the point where we're kind of I think the whole point is just to get that kind of that grounding and that foundation and of what we need to do on the boat when certain things happen. But as far as actually getting out and doing a really long row, other than like the week that Rach said, we'll be waiting until we actually get out on the Atlantic to push that really hard.
And I'm not 100% sure whether you're at this next stage, but obviously you've spoken about the team name, but are you there yet with the boat name, or is it still confidential?
Oh, so it's a great question, Dee. What do you think, guys? Should we do it? Do we say our team name, or do we have to wait for our announcement? Oh, I think we have named the boat, but we haven't announced it yet. It's being wrapped next week with our sort of training wrap that's got our first sponsors on, and at that point we're gonna announce what it's called. So I'll just tell you to go watch this space and watch out, because we will present that out to you, and it's very meaningful to all of us. So we're quite excited about that.
Oh, well, we can certainly wait. We look forward to it. And I guess just to sort of wrap it up is to sort of, how has the support been so far, and where do you need to get to? So, we can hopefully get the message out for you guys.
Yeah, so we're really fortunate. When we launched at the Southampton Boat Show, we had the support of the British Marine, which we're all members of, the Green Blue, any of the kind of marine industry related and kind of ocean bodies have come alongside us, which is amazing. We've obviously got Premier Mariners as our platinum sponsor, so they're with us on the journey, and we've secured a couple of other smaller sponsorships, but we're very much looking for more corporate sponsorships, and also more individual donations that will get us to the start line, and then anything that's over and above that goes towards John's research at the university. So we have a long way to go. We've done great so far, but we have a long way to go. And I would say we've got even things like buying a meal for a day. So it's £10 a person for a meal for the day. Small amounts like that mean so much to us. There is a list. I mean, I can't tell you how many lists we've got of things that we need to purchase, and things that do cost us. As far as, I saw a question about training actually. So training we are paying for at the moment. That's obviously something that we're looking for a sponsor for. I am talking to a few people about covering kind of the training package as a whole, which is quite a nice story for various companies that want to get involved in the cause that we're doing this for. But also those individual donations and things are incredibly important for us. We've got an extra sort of 40-50 grand to raise, so we've got a long way to go. But like I say, the foundations of who we've got supporting us is amazing, and I know will take us to other places with that.
Thank you, Holly. I can see someone's asked how can they get involved in the sponsorship. Would you say to go to your website in the first instance?
Absolutely. So our website, www.inarelement.co.uk, has got links on there to email addresses and things like that. But if anyone can't get to us for whatever reason, then ask anyone at a Premier Marina, because they'll be able to get hold of us.
They'll know who we are.
That's great. And obviously this talk is recorded and we'll be sharing it on social media platforms, so hopefully that will create more buzz and more awareness, and I'm sure just the people who are listening can sort of feel how momentous this challenge is going to be going forward, and do want to support. With that, I'm going to obviously pass on to John now, who is obviously going on a completely different journey in terms of researching the centres, doing magnificent works in terms of finding a resolution for plastic pollution. Do you mind if I hand over to you now, John?
Perfect, thank you. So let me just see if I can share my screen here. Now, can you see my screen okay?
Yes, we can. I can, John.
Perfect. Okay. So yes, I mean, goodness, that's really a difficult challenge to follow what has just come before. I know that Holly has got this infectious enthusiasm, but to be honest, if she asked me to row across the Atlantic, I would say, you must be joking. Do you know how far it is? I really admire the challenge that these folks are taking on. It's really incredible. What I want to speak to you a little bit about today is the work that we're doing on plastic pollution in the oceans and on land and even in the air. We've seen some horror stories over the past couple of years, especially with David Attenborough and Blue Planet, who's really kind of put the notion in the public domain about how important this challenge of plastic pollution is. And our team are on a journey as well. And we hope to kind of draw a parallel between the journey of the team here with the journey of the Centre for Enzyme Innovation here at Portsmouth University, the CEI, because it's a real challenge. As we go forward, there's lots of obstacles and lots of hurdles to get through. And we get through them as a team, and we are very much working as a team in the same way that's exemplified by the crew. I want to start really broadly, actually. So this is our planet, and nature has got this incredible ability to recycle. It recycles everything. It recycles the air, the carbon, the water. Nothing is wasted. And this is really where we want to start, because this is where we want to learn about how we can do this better with man-made materials. I'm showing this is really kind of come to people's attention through COP26 and talking about climate change. And what this shows is basically the cycles that happen on land and at sea of all the carbon materials that come in. So we have, for example, trees. They bring in the carbon dioxide and they produce oxygen through photosynthesis, and that carbon is sequestered. And then there's a huge amount of carbon that's underground in fossil carbon, that's oil and gas. And then the sea itself has got this enormous exchange of carbon, both into the sea and then out again, and the sediments that go down to the bottom of the sea. But in the middle here, you see this like red number, human emissions. And although this is relatively small compared to the global carbon cycles, it's really significant because it's upsetting the balance. And particularly as we keep digging up more fossil carbon and oil and gas, we're adding more and more of this to the atmosphere, and it's really pushing the balance in the wrong direction. So we really need to bring that back. And plastic has a massive impact on this, both in the manufacture of plastic, because we're digging up oil and gas to make it, but also in the disposal of it, being the incineration and the landfill, and also the pollution in itself has massive carbon footprints. So really, plastic pollution and the climate change issues are intrinsically linked. Now, this is a kind of diagram that you might have seen at school, you remember, and this is super important. And we have plants like this that are taking in sunlight and carbon dioxide and then making oxygen. And what's really important here is if you look at the forest floor, you can see that there's this recycling is happening. Nothing is wasted. When a leaf falls to the ground, it slowly breaks down into all its building blocks, is absorbed in the soil and then is used again. And this cycle continues over millions of years. And this is something we need to really learn how to do better in our materials. So this is the only chemistry I'm going to show. This is a molecule of cellulose, and you can see there's two ring-like structures, and they come together in long chains to form one of the most abundant molecules on Earth. This is chitin. This is another incredibly abundant molecule on Earth, and it looks very much the same, some really tiny changes, but literally this is how these polymers are made. And you can sort of imagine these are a bit like Lego building blocks. And as you change the different components of those building blocks, you can make slightly different materials. And then when you put those building blocks together and stack them, you can generate these long polymer chains. And this could give you, for example, cellulose, that's the main component of plants, or something like chitin. By these very small changes, you can generate something like the hard shells for insects and crabs and this sort of thing. So nature is amazing at this, because not only can it make these amazing materials from these building blocks, but it can actually recycle them. So if we look at these really complicated molecules here that's called lignin and cellulose that make up plants and trees and crops, they're really complicated, but nature has this ability to use enzymes to break them down back into the building blocks and recycle them. Now, the question comes to what happens with man-made polymers, these plastics. So I've chosen 4 of the big ones here. The top one here is polyethylene terephthalate, PET. It's used for plastic bottles, but actually there's much more PET out there in waste materials from clothing than there is bottles. Bottles are the poster child, but actually there's much more textile pollution. If you see polyester in your towel or your clothes, that's the same molecule. And you can see it's the same sort of thing. It's got these molecules that are linked together in these long chains. Here's another one. You can see it's actually very simple. This is called a polyethylene, and that makes up plastic bags. The next one's polystyrene. We can see that in packaging and your typical polystyrene cup. And PVC, again, we've just altered those building blocks very slightly, and now we've got an amazing material for long-lasting pipes. Now, the question is, can we recycle those in the same way nature recycles polymers? And I think the answer is we're just beginning to be able to do this, and I think this is incredibly exciting. The other thing people often ask me is, well, it's not one material. Plastics are hundreds of different materials all mixed together. Surely nature can't do that. Well, of course it can. If you look at a typical tree, it's made up of lignin, cellulose, hemicellulose, and they're all bound together. And the parallel to that is your typical single-use drinks bottle, where you've got a PET bottle, you've got a polyethylene label, and a polypropylene cap. So you've already got 3 materials there that you need to deal with. And I think the parallels are very strong, and we're learning from this. This is the only graph I'm going to show, and it's quite a scary one. This is the annual global market for plastics. And these numbers are in millions of metric tons per year. So if you look at the blue bar on the right, that's polyethylene terephthalate. That's the PET that makes plastic bottles, packaging, and clothing. So that's 65 million metric tons of that are made a year. And that's really the main one we're going for at the moment, because that's got linkages that are quite easy to break, actually. It's one of the easier materials to recycle. But then if you look to the left, all these yellow and orange plastics, we've got polyethylene, PVC, polypropylene, polystyrene. If you add all those together, it's hundreds and hundreds of millions of metric tons of material that we don't really know how to break down. So there's a huge amount of research that needs to go on here to solve this problem. It's not one problem, as you can see, it's lots of different problems. And what happens? Of course, if you can't break these things down, when they enter our environment, they last for a very long time. And this is this really disturbing image of the Great Pacific garbage patch here. And this is because plastic is really recalcitrant in the environment. It's breaking down at an incredibly slow rate. And the trouble is, it doesn't matter where you put your plastic bottle, it comes down the river and goes into the sea, it starts to collect in these gyres. And the team here are actually going to roll right through the North Atlantic Gyre, and they're likely to roll through plastic. And that's a really disturbing thing, because it really tells you that plastic's everywhere on the planet now. And, you know, we need to be thinking about how we can, you know, mitigate this and make it better. There's amazing technologies out there. You may have seen the ocean cleanup project, where they take these huge booms out into the oceans and then literally scoop up the plastic. But then you've got to think about the scale. If you think of that globe that I showed on the first slide, this would be a tiny, tiny dot in the middle of the Atlantic. It's really, really too small to deal with the problem. And then even when you collect that material, you know, what do you do with it when you get it back to land? So if you go one step back, these machines really, the interceptors, they're really clever. They're actually collecting plastic in the rivers before it enters the sea, which is, you know, a great idea and superb technologies. But then maybe we should be looking a bit further back. Can we stop the material getting into the rivers in the first place? And to do that, we need to make plastic not a waste material, but a value material. And that's what our research is really trying to do. So in 2016, there was this amazing discovery in a Japanese recycling plant of a bacterium that was producing enzymes that allowed it to break down not the sugary bits that were left over in these plastic bottles, but the plastic itself. It could actually start breaking down the plastic from these recycling dumps and using it as a food and an energy source. And that was super exciting. And when our team saw this, we thought, we know about enzymes, we need to know about these enzymes. So what's an enzyme? Well, it's just a protein that takes those long polymer chains and breaks them down into those Lego building blocks again so that you can reuse them. Now, the idea here is very, very straightforward. You collect your plastic bottles, you use these enzymes. I'm showing them here like sort of Pac-Man like things that are literally like a big pair of molecular scissors, and they snip the bonds holding those long polymers together, and you get the building blocks back. Then you can do one of two things. You can make plastic bottles again, and that's a really good thing to do, because you're using that material again, and you can do that process infinitely because you don't lose any material properties. And crucially, you're not digging up more oil and gas to make that plastic again. The other thing you can do, which is very exciting, is you can cleverly add some monomers, and some of my colleagues in the US are doing this, to that mixture and make better materials. So you can make things like fiberglass, and from fiberglass, you can make wind turbine blades. So what you're doing here is not recycling, but upcycling. You're actually increasing the value of the material. And if we can do that, suddenly your plastic waste starts to become valuable and the economics start to take off. That's where we hope to get to. So in our laboratories, we're using kind of really state-of-the-art science to tackle this problem. So I want to show you a couple of videos. This was on the Earthshot series we were filmed last year. And this film shows the process in the lab of the kind of things that we're currently doing. So we take those plastic bottles, we freeze them in liquid nitrogen, and then we kind of mill them down into flakes or powders like this. For those of you with young children, you may recognize that luminous bottle of fruit juice. We then take enzymes, and these are much the same like the enzymes you'd find in your washing powder. And then you add that powdered enzyme to the plastic. And what starts happening is it starts to chop those bonds down, just like, you know, a natural process, making monomers and then releasing them into the solution. So the plastic literally looks as if it melts away, and then you've got a solution of monomers. So what Rosie and Luciana are doing here is actually growing enzymes from all over the world, different places where we can find these amazing enzymes from nature. So here's a couple of my colleagues, just to give you like some recent updates on what we're doing. Simon Cragg and Laura Michi are really going out to the places where there's a lot of plastic. The mangroves, for example, in Jakarta, where unfortunately, you know, these beautiful systems, these root systems act like giant sieves for plastic bags and plastic pollution. But then if you look to the right with the colleagues standing in the mud here, in that mud is absolutely packed full of bacteria producing enzymes, because when all that leaf litter falls to the floor, it's reused and goes back into the cycle. So if you then combine that with plastic, what we're hoping that happens is through, you know, evolution, basically those enzymes start adapting to tackle the plastic. So we're actually scraping that plastic from these places, taking it back to the laboratory, and then looking for enzymes that can degrade different types of plastic. And looking in the literature all over the world, there's many groups looking at this at the moment. We're seeing some success. So it's a really exciting time at the moment. And we're also looking in kind of crazy places like this. This is Yellowstone National Park. And here we can find bacteria that can live at 100 degrees. And that's really exciting, because if you take a PET bottle, for example, and you heat it up to about 60 or 70 degrees, it gets really soft and squishy, and enzymes can operate maybe 10, sometimes even 100 times faster. So if we can have enzymes that can work at that temperature for an industrial process for recycling, it would just really speed things up. And of course, that makes the economics better, which is super exciting. This is the latest enzyme that we've just solved. It's been accepted for publication in a big journal yesterday, and you're the first guys to see it. So we're very excited about this enzyme because it takes those building blocks and allows bacteria to eat it more quickly, and then we can generate other high valuable molecules from that. So that's literally hot off the press. It's really exciting from the team here at the CEI, and a big collaboration with our American colleagues at the University of Montana, Professor Jen Dubois and her team. We're also doing lots of community engagements. I mentioned COP26. We presented at COP26 because we did a big economic study and energy study and found that by using enzymes to recycle PET plastic instead of digging up oil and gas, you can save around 80% energy and 40% greenhouse gases across the supply chain. So as I say, they're really intrinsically linked. We've also had number 10 come and visit us, which is not quite Boris, but we've had some of the real interest from government, which is great because let's face it, there's not many scientists in government. So it's really important that, you know, we get that message across. Our colleagues, some of our PhD students and researchers were at the London Science Museum today and yesterday presenting to the local public about what we do. And we work very closely in the Solent as well with the local enterprise partnership here, who just funded a £1 million upgrade to our labs here, which are going to be opened in May. So that's really exciting. That's a big biorecycling laboratory to go along with their enzyme development. So lots of really exciting things happening here. There's many companies that have expressed an interest, and there's 4 big ones. Fortunately, unfortunately, they're tied up in legal documents at the moment, so I can't name them, but we're excited to be working with a very large drinks bottler who has 700 million customers in 29 countries, so you have to guess who that might be. And hopefully I can tell you about that quite soon. And we're working with one of the biggest, for those of you that wear glasses like me, when you make glasses, you have to shave off all the additional material to make them fit your lenses. So they generate a huge amount of plastic waste and they don't know what to do with it. Currently, it gets incinerated or landfilled. And we want to use enzymes to try and take care of that if we can. So that's really exciting. We're working with several of the big recycling companies as well. The one I can tell you about, though, is super exciting. It's a company called Google DeepMind. And this is probably the top artificial intelligence company in the world. And you may wonder, why are you working with them? Well, this group of people, Catherine, Demis, and John, are just super intelligent people that do this amazing artificial intelligence. And here's Andy and I in front of the screen looking at one of the enzyme structures that they solved for us. So we spend an awful lot of time in the laboratories trying to figure out the 3D shape of our enzymes, because if you can get the shape of them, then you can understand how they work and make them faster. in green and orange here were our initial structures that we solved. It took about 6 months to solve using X-rays at the synchrotron at Diamond, really expensive technologies. This structure in blue that we've overlaid here was solved by DeepMind. Now they solved it not in 6 months, but quite scarily in about 1.5 minutes. And this has completely transformed what we do. This is brand new data as well. This has not even been published yet. But here you can see on the left, all these little squiggy blobby things are the 100 enzymes that DeepMind have helped us solve. And some of them we've never seen before. It's just amazing, so much exciting data. And what you can see here in yellow on the right is an enzyme. And that kind of chain in there is PET. And you can see how that PET is actually fitting into the enzyme, and it acts a bit like a lock and key, and then the enzyme will cut it and release those Lego building blocks. By knowing those shapes, we can really tune it to be even faster. And we've now got a whole selection of these new enzymes that hopefully can not just eat PET, but they can actually eat a whole selection of those other, really common plastics that I mentioned, such as polyethylene, plastic bags, polypropylene, and all those other plastics that are polluting our environment. So really exciting times at the moment. And just to finish off, one of the things we're quite passionate about is the ocean, but also to connect people across the world, because plastic pollution is a global problem and it needs a global solution. So we've been very fortunate to have a donor come to us and say, what do you need? What do you really need? And we said, well, as a community, we need to get together more. There's lots of great labs, but we're duplicating experiments and we can't afford to do that. We can't afford to waste resources. We need to come together and share. So next month in Oceans Week, Portsmouth University are leading the charge by bringing 100 scientists together from academia, from industry, and from government into a room for 3 days, and we're going to figure out, maybe, big challenge, how to go forward faster. And I think this is super exciting. People have been desperate to come. Everyone's accepting the invitation to share their knowledge and do this. I think there's a real journey here that's just about to start, and we're very excited about this. And Prince Albert II from Monaco is supporting us in this, which is a great person to have, someone who's passionate about the ocean and fixing the problems that we've created. So here's so this will be the world's first plastic summit in Monaco next month, bringing scientists of the world together to tackle plastic pollution. So that's really exciting. So thank you for listening to me. One of our main themes here is to grow the research team, because we need more scientists. We need to discover new enzymes for all those different types of plastics, not just PET. We need to join up the teams globally, and we need to change people's perceptions. And we're hoping that this journey across the Atlantic will really help to get the message out there that everyone can make a difference. And our key aim here is to really accelerate the science, speed up the science with your support. And on behalf of the whole CEI team, we want to thank you. And I personally want to thank the whole CEI researchers for being amazing in their work that they're doing, and all our collaborators around the world. And just to thank you for listening. So thank you.
Thank you, John. That was absolutely amazing. The research is so fascinating and inspiring. Before we go on to the questions, because there's a torrent again, I just wanted to ask, sort of, how long has it taken to sort of set up the Monaco Ocean Week? I mean, 100 scientists. I'm thinking lots of emails. Just personal interest there.
Yeah, so 100 people, you can multiply the emails by 10 probably at the moment. So, but Jackie Dillon, our centre manager here, is doing an amazing job. And we have some help in Monaco from the Prince Albert II Foundation, who are helping us. They've been amazing. But yeah, it's quite a scary prospect, to be honest, but an exciting one all the same. And, we're kind of hoping you can put 100 people in a room and everything will work. But, there's a few interesting personalities among there. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
Well, we look forward to hearing more about that, John. I'm just gonna go with the first question that I can see here is, this is a really interesting one, actually. Do you see a future where we could potentially be mining plastic from landfills, the ocean, or do we don't want it to get to that point?
That is a great question, because of course we're going to the bottom of the sea, you know, to dig up oil and gas to make plastic, when actually we've got a huge amount of carbon sitting in landfills. You know, even the best recycling plants are only taking about 50% of the plastic. Anything coloured at the moment, for example, gets incinerated or landfilled because there's no market for it. We're not allowed to ship it to anyone anymore, and no one wants it. So that's material that's got a negative value. So, but it does have value. If you can generate a process to get the building blocks back, then you can reuse it and sell it on. So that's really what we want to do. But yes, that would be amazing to have a recycling plant just sitting on top of a landfill, mining it back up so that we could use it. Yeah, maybe one day.
And obviously, you have mentioned the government are helping you. Did they sort of help you when you first set up the centre? Sort of, can you tell us a bit about how the centre came to be?
Yeah, I mean, so I mentioned that study in 2016. So as soon as we saw that paper came out with the Japanese, you know, plastic-eating bacteria, I phoned my colleague Greg Beckham in the US in Colorado. We've been working on enzymes together for quite a long time. And I'm like, have you seen this? It's amazing. I'm like, yeah, it's incredible. Shall we work on this? He goes, yeah. Have you got any money to do it? No. Have you? No. Shall we do it anyway? Yes. And you know, scientists are you know, a bit like that. All my colleagues were like, yeah, we'll do it. You know, we'll do it in the evenings, weekends, whatever. And we got started on it. And then when we published our first paper on when we solved the structure of an enzyme called PETase in 2018, the media went a bit viral because it was just about the time David Attenborough was talking about Blue Planet 2. And it was really in the headlines. And it went out to millions of people around the globe. And this really helped us to get funding. So we approached the government. They had a special fund to fund small centres just at the right time as we were bidding. And they gave us £6 million, which allowed us to basically start from scratch this Centre for Enzyme Innovation and hire like 15 people from all over the world, all the specialities we need. And now we're about 30 people here at Portsmouth, all working on this common goal. So, yeah.
And I guess everyone's going to probably be asking the question, sort of, what can we each be doing to help in everyday lives?
So, you know, this is only part of the jigsaw of solving the problem. We need to all reduce the amount of plastics we're using and take care of the plastics we have at the end of their life. So making sure that plastic gets into those recycling bins. But, you know, if you look at any county in the UK, they're all got different recycling schemes. There's no standardization. And then as soon as you move out of the UK into Europe and then wider to the east, in places there is literally no infrastructure for collecting plastics. So we need to really think quite big about how we do this. And I think getting people together in the room is really important. I think the public need to understand that there's lots they can do. You know, you can look in the supermarket trolley and just look down and see how much plastic is in there and how much of it is necessary. I think it's starting to happen, and consumers have an amazing power to push the supermarkets to change, push governments to change even. And when that happens, governments can legislate and make companies change their ways. And that's really how we'll have massive change. So public power is really powerful.
And obviously you have mentioned sort of the limitations with regards to sort of funding, but is it people and other resources as well that can create hurdles with your research programme?
I think, you know, everyone is looking for solutions. I think some of the problems is that some of the systems that we've got now, we were very used to digging up oil and gas, making you know, plastic and then using it for a few minutes and throwing it away. It's incredibly convenient. We've got very used to this idea of disposable materials. They're not really disposable because they don't go away. So I think that's the major hurdle, is changing people's perception that there's value in that waste. In fact, we don't even like to call it waste because it's a feedstock for the next generation of materials. And that's really what we want to do, is change the way people think about disposable plastic.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. And just looking to see if there's any other questions. If anyone's got any questions for the rowing team as well, please do pop it in the messenger whilst I'm just seeing.
Can I ask the rowing team a question? Actually, I was wondering, do you guys have you decided to do it in pairs, or are you going to swap? You know, during the journey. How does that work? And do you mix it up?
So,
Good question.
yeah, great question. I mean, essentially, there is 2 people sharing each cabin. So there's a cabin in the fore of the boat and one in the aft. And then one person from each of those cabins will be generally rowing together. And then you're so you're using the cabin for your sleep alternately. There will be opportunities where there'll be 3 of us rowing at a time, because we can row 3 on the boat at the same time. And we've definitely discussed the fact that if there's a really bad weather coming in and we have an opportunity to, we know we're all going to be tucked away for a period of time, actually we would get us on the oars earlier, get some more effort on there, knowing that we've got to break the other side. So we can have up to 3 rowers. But yeah, it's we're going to get on the boat in April and we're going to have a play, and then we're going to work out how that's going to work.
It's not set in stone. We can mix it up if you know, I might be rowing with Holly for 20 days and we're like, I'm sick of you. I want to row with someone else. But no, that won't happen. But it's just nice that we can mix it up if we want to. Nothing's set in stone. It's whatever works for each team, and I think that's what every team does. They do it to work for themselves.
Thanks for that question, John. I've got one more question for you. Someone's asked, how soon do you think that you'll be able to scale this up so this process is making a bigger impact? I'm guessing after March the 21st.
Well, actually, there's a company in France near Lyon that are building the first demonstration plant right now. There's concrete in the ground, and it's like a 10,000 ton demonstration plant using enzymes. So all eyes are on this, how it works out. So we will be looking in the next couple of years for funding for similar demonstration plants for all the different types of plastic. I think we'll probably need different varieties for the different waste streams, but yeah, we're already seeing concrete in the ground, and we should see these plants popping up all over the place in the next few years.
Oh, that's really exciting to hear. Well, I think we're there. Oh, no, one more question. Okay, this is interesting, and you may get feedback with the event next month, John. Is the UK leading in this science?
I don't. Scientists are quite modest, so no, we're part of a team, just like you guys. I think there's always been great innovation in science in the UK, and it's a great place to do science. But we are part of several big consortia that are global, and I think that's really where we want to be. But certainly we're leading the charge, pulling people together on this occasion, which is really fun.
So we can call you the glue then, John. You're the glue. The centre's the glue.
Yeah, let's go for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much, John, and thank you so much, Holly, Elliot, Mike, and Rachel. I'm sure that the In Our Element team won't mind me reiterating that alongside all of their training and getting across the line, they've got an incredible fundraising campaign ahead, and any support for them and the centre's research would be incredibly grateful. I want to say thank you for you guys for coming along and listening to them tonight. This is obviously our first virtual talk. We've got another one next month. I believe it is Thursday the 20th of March, and that is a wildlife talk with 2 guest speakers. Yes, take care, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you so much.